academia, personal story tend to fall by the wayside. So as a supplement to this conference, I would like to tell you a story today. A story of young Iraqis who defied all barriers to serve their country in a very unconventional way by working with the coalition forces as interpreters. More stories available about these people today often talks about where they are today and what had happened to them. But I want to tell you about what they did, why they did it, and how they lived. I hope I do them justice through telling you today my story. I was born in Baghdad, Iraq, and lived there until the end of 2009 when I left for the United States. I was 19 years old when I first saw the American tanks rolling in Baghdad Street, dragging the statue of Saddam Hussein behind them. It was euphoric. I felt euphoric because there was finally some hope in our lives. I felt that we would finally be able to live with some dignity. I remember those days when I was in school and I was forced to cheer "Live Long the President" every time a teacher walks into my classroom. The president, Mr. Saddam Hussein, the same person who executed 2 of my uncles for opposing his policies. But all that was long gone in 2003, and I looked forward for a different Iraq. But thanks to the now well-known U.S. mismanagement of the war, Iraq was soon engulfed in chaos. And I was there with the rest of my countrymen, watching our country being burned to the ground. At that time, I was faced with two difficult options: to sit on the fence and watch, or to get involved and do something. So in 2005, after I barely graduated from high school, I decided to get involved. I knew I would regret it for the rest of my life if I didn't do something. I first tried to enlist in the Iraqi army, but I failed. I didn't have the money to bribe my way in, nor did I have the wasta, or the right contacts, to push my application forward. I then entertained the idea of joining a local militia with some of my friends. But I knew that I was not willing to do some of the things they did, so I refrained. My other option was to work with the U.S. Army as an interpreter. It was a very difficult decision to make, but I thought to give it a shot. I learned English in a very unorthodox way. A lot of it was outside school. When I was in middle school, I became very fond of a young lady in a nearby university. She spoke French, or I think it was French. So I decided to learn French to impress her. But due to a lack of resources to learn French, I decided to learn English. What is the difference, I thought? English, French, they will all sound very impressive. At the beginning, working with the Americans was very frustrating. In addition to constantly suspecting my intentions, I was shocked to learn that the Americans knew very little about Iraq and had a minimum contact with the local populations where they operated. The only times we talked to the Iraqis were when we raided and searched their homes in the middle of the nights, sometimes detaining their sons and confiscating their weapons. It was an extremely difficult time for me, for I felt like I was betraying my country and my people. So I quit and went home. Following months, I sat home and did nothing, joining the rest of millions of bystanders. By doing nothing, it felt like I was betraying my country even more. By just watching it, being burned down without even moving a limb. I returned to my work with the Americans. A little over a year later, things started to change. My understanding of the war and the conflict grew and became more nuanced and complex. Working with the Americans exposed me to all narratives. I understood why a Sunni might fight alongside Al-Qaeda, or turns his face away when seeing an innocent Shia being slaughtered in the name of God. I understood why a Shia would call a mass murderer his hero. I understood how fear and uncertainty manipulate our actions and get us to do things that we would never do otherwise. At that same time, the Americans started to realize how important it was to engage with the local population in a very different manner. And the Sunnis, in addition, especially in western Iraq, tasted the bitterness of humiliation of living under the rule of the oppressive state of the Islamic State of Iraq, and they did not like it. Soon, a rebellion was on the verge. Because I was from a mixed tribe and lived my life in mixed communities, I was able to bring a lot to the table during the negotiations between the Americans and the tribes. I was able to advise U.S. military officers on the social, political, and tribal dynamics that made them more informed and capable negotiators and decision makers. After months of intense negotiations and planning, we finally launched the rebellion. We called it the Awakening. Sunnis, Shias, and Americans fought side by side. I felt like we were unstoppable. The Taji Awakening, when I worked at the time, was quite complicated and different from the rest of Iraq. We had a mixed city, Sunnis and Shias, and many homogeneous villages. We had not only to convince the Sunnis to rebel against Al-Qaeda, we also had to bring the Sunnis and Shia together and work together. Furthermore, a year later, we had to work with the Shia to rebel against criminal militias. I have a few things to say about the awakening, and I'll make it short. We had a few simple yet complex principles that guided our approach to the awakening. First, we did not take the awakening as a magical solution for all our problems, to all our problems. If conditions and requirements were not there, we did not have an awakening. We used other tools to address the problem. Second, we refrained from including criminal individuals and organizations to the awakening. And if we did it according to our strategy. That is, not to strengthen them, but contain, weaken, and abolish them with time. Lastly, we gave the Shia a major role in the awakening and made it clear that we will only work with those who are willing to work with the whole community, not part of it. This last point allowed us to have a genuine national awakening, a stronger position in repelling sectarian accusations, and made it easier to lobby the Iraqi government for support and to include our awakening members in the Iraqi security forces, which by no means was easy. The result of the awakening exceeded all expectations. The results of the awakening exceeded all expectations. The same hope and euphoria of 2003 was back in the air. During that same time, 18 men, my village, including 2 of my close relatives, were kidnapped and executed by Al-Qaeda in the Arab province. A few months later, 25 men and women from the same village, my village, including 3 brothers-in-law, were mistakenly killed by an American airstrike. I had to bury them and return to my work this very next day. On my way to my work, I thought to quit my job, for it was too much pain to work with the same people who just killed my family. But how could that change things? What good would that bring to my people? How would leaving a foreign force, armed to the teeth, and an absence of way to communicate with my people will help my country? Though the U.S. forces made deadly mistakes, we were also bringing more peace and hope to so many people. Furthermore, I knew the men and women with whom I served. They shared my pain, my grief, and put their lives on the line to help my people. There were many things, but they were not cold-blooded colors. The decision to work with the Americans changed my life. Working as a terror was an extremely difficult and dangerous profession. We were hunted down by both Sunnis and Shia armed groups alike. So to protect ourselves, we had to live like ghosts, constantly changing our looks, names, routes, and cunningly hiding our real identities. Very few people knew about my work. I I told my family that I was working in the South selling furniture. Later on, I slowly removed myself from society so that I had to answer their questions about my whereabouts. When I put my uniform and boots on for the first time, I knew that my life would never be the same. But I also knew that if I didn't do something, I would regret it for the rest of my life. In the following years, I lost nearly everything I had. But I also wake up every day knowing that I have done the right thing. I have no regrets. If I had the choice to do this one more time, I would do it all over again. I would do it because I know that all what it takes for evil to prevail is for good people to do nothing. Thank you.